How's it going, everybody? Ed Ricker here, and this is the new Pavo25 V2 by BETAFPV. Now, last year I reviewed the Pavo25, the original version, and I liked it. I used it for a few professional shoots, but it did have some interesting quirks that I wasn't a huge fan of. So now we have the V2, and we can hope that BETAFPV has fixed some of those issues. We'll find out soon. So it's a 2.5 inch Cinewhoop, and so basically 2.5 inch propellers. It's a pusher style, so the motors are pushing up, and I'm kind of flipping it around to show you BETAFPV motors. 1505 4600 kV motors. So these are bigger motors, higher kV than last year's Pavo. So the V2 has more power with these motors. There's also some CNC aluminum parts in here reinforcing the carbon fiber and the ducts. So this should be a little bit more durable. Also, there's an F722 35 amp all-in-one flight controller. The other one I believe was a 20 amp, so higher amperage on the flight controller. That's going to help with these beefier motors. And then finally we have an air unit, an O3 Air Unit. They sell this Pavo25 without a VTX. And I asked them why that was. I thought maybe there's some regulation now with selling drones in the United States. I'm not sure if I completely understand. Either way, when you buy this, you also are going to have to get your own VTX. Now that could really raise the price significantly. Usually if the O3 is in there, it becomes a really good deal to get your O3 along with everything else. So now we're considering probably an increase in price, unless you have a VTX. It could be Walk-Snail, could be a Caddx Vista, could be anything. If you have one laying around, you can put it in here. But putting it together is very easy because it comes with its own O3 Air Unit harness, which is plug and play right into the flight controller. Then we just stick the antenna out the back. Now, they do sell this with different receiver protocols. So they sent it to me with ELRS already built in. That's very nice. I'm ELRS now. Now, as you can see watching this footage, a little bit of the quad frame peeks its way into camera view. I haven't seen this in other YouTube reviewers' videos of this quad. I think there's a couple of factors here. First of all, I'm using the widest field of view with the O3 Air Unit. Second of all, I'm using a relatively docile camera tilt, and if you look at the frame close up, you can see the odd shape of the camera bracket with this odd corner that juts out. And so when you have the camera at the lowest tilt, that little corner actually gets in view of the lens. It's a very odd design, and that really should just be rounded out. Since this is, after all, a Cinewhoop, I'm flying it more cinematically. I'm moving slow, I'm moving careful and deliberate. I'm not flipping and rolling like a freestyle quad. That's not what this is. And so because of that low camera tilt and the wide angle lens, I'm starting to get that camera bracket in view. You can also see they have a little capacitor there, just out of prop strike distance of the prop. These are, let's see, Gemfan D63 3-blade props. Yeah, so you also have your XT30 built into the frame. And I'm not always a fan of this because I like to scoot my batteries back really far to add an action cam off the front and kind of have a good center of gravity. And usually a built-in XT30 makes that really difficult. So I've been known to take these off and then string it out the back to allow me to maneuver the battery back and forth. Now these are the batteries that for me came with the quad, but they're 850 milliamp hour 4S 100C lipos. They're called lava lipos. XT30. So far what I've gotten is about 7 minutes, like running it all the way down, about 7.5 minutes without an action cam. With an action cam, and in this case the GoPro 10 Bones, which is being powered off of a lipo off the balance lead, so the battery is performing double duty, that gets more like 4.5 to 5 minutes max, like limping back. I'd say more like 4.5 if you're treating your battery right. In the box you also get some extra props, an extra battery strap, also a manual, and some extra hardware, a couple manuals actually. So you have a wiring guide, kind of goes through all the process of putting in a receiver or your own custom video transmitter. It kind of talks about the pinout of the flight controller and also how to put together the frame. Now you'll also see that the bumper on these ducts is an odd color. Actually, they're black ducts, but this is a cob LED strip that they also provide. And you connect it right here to this little plug that they have hanging off the back. It makes it very, very easy. It took 30 seconds to put this on. You can then program that up in Betaflight, and you can use one of your modes in the Modes tab to be able to flick on or off that LED if you need it on or off using one of your radio aux controls. And so that's good. Let's say you're flying indoors and you realize that your LED lights are creating a light spill on every nearby source. Maybe having it like this, you're even seeing it reflect into your own lens. Like that could actually be something happening as well. So you can then use your aux switch that you programmed in your Modes tab in Betaflight to turn off remotely that LED strip. When you're trying to program whether or not you want your LEDs to turn off with the switch, it's got to be user one. Now, it could be any aux you want to select except for one, but it has to be user one in order to do so. So, how does the Pavo25 V2 fly? Well, honestly, it flies really good without the action camera. And so, if you're flying with just the O3 Air Unit, you're going to have a great time. Flight characteristics do change a bit when you put on the action cam like a Hero 10 Bones. I would not put a full-size action cam on here. I think that the flight characteristics of the Pavo25 V2 beat out the original Pavo25 quite a bit. I liked the Pavo25 in the past, but we had issues with it interacting oddly with the wind. Something about the PID controls or something was going on that would make the original Pavo25 ascend and throttle up when a gust of wind would hit it. And it actually caused me to wreck a few times because it's doing something I'm not telling it to do. In fact, it's doing the opposite of what I'm telling it to do. The V2 doesn't have that issue. Must be a new flight controller, or maybe it's the tuning that they've added to this. I'm not really sure, but I like how it flies. In fact, we took this in a very windy environment, and like one of the windiest days for FPV ever, and it was actually performing really, really well. I liked it. It was no problem. The motors are powerful, and when paired with these props, it is significantly more powerful than the original Pavo25. So what I'm thinking is, like, if you're using this to fly indoors, you're gonna have more trouble with throttle control than you would have with the Pavo25 V1. This wants to get up and go, and the littlest throttle control, the littlest throttle input is gonna make this get going. Now, for my radio, what I've done is I've taken this little dial here. It's my 50 to 100% limiter for my throttle. So when I'm flying this, I can easily put this at 75% throttle and start to regain that feel of throttle control and resolution that I was experiencing with, smaller, less powerful quads. Just because these motors, I think they're starting to push this into more freestyle territory. It was fun outside for sure. I was getting up and going. I was having a grand old time out in the trees, split S-ing and flipping and rolling and everything. But for indoors, it's almost too much. Weighing it, it's 192 grams with nothing. And then we add the battery, 287, so already kind of heavy, past the 250 mark. And then 354 grams with the GoPro 10 Bones. On the website, they talk about using small action mounts like, let's say, I think they refer to the DJI Action 2 and a few of the other small action cams that are popular in the FPV community. They don't mention the GoPro 10 Bones. One thing I noticed is that when you put your 10 Bones on here, the way that the 10 Bones is positioned and the way it connects with the mount, the mounting spot on the camera is all the way to the back of the camera. See that? And so this mounting spot right here, which might be fine for a DJI Action 2 because the DJI Action 2 kind of gets mounted in the center of the camera front to back. This camera is mounted at the very back of the camera, so much sticks forward, which means that if you want to achieve a good center of gravity, you need to stick this battery as far back as possible. Now, we're starting to run into a few issues. First of all, we're running out of space to strap it because this strap is only in one spot. The strap isn't really adjustable. You might be able to stick a strap over here, but you have to move some stuff. Also, we have that XT30 built into the frame, so there's not much else we can do before we run out of space there because we still have to plug this battery in. So that's really as far back as we can have it. It's very front heavy, extremely front heavy. So, not that good. You can actually hear in the footage, because the GoPro 10 Bones has a microphone, you can actually hear in the footage that the motors are not liking that center of gravity being off so much. In fact, it didn't fly very well at all. I was starting to get oscillations. And really, the way it sounded, I was actually scared to fly it a lot. I was worried I was going to burn up the front motors or cause some sort of issue. They sent me an STL file for this mount, which is for the GoPro 10 Bones. And the way that it connects, it kind of allows the GoPro 10 Bones to sit further back on the quad, and that kind of helps with the center of gravity. I still have to have the battery all the way back, which is awkward. But my friend Christopher Gila, he took their mount and extended it for me. The interesting thing is that the GoPro 10 Bones is lighter than the DJI Action 2. So it's not weight that we're struggling with here. It's literally just camera placement. So this is how it looks now. This is probably how I'm going to run it. I'm probably going to print this in PETG versus TPU right now because this is a little too wiggly. But either way, with the battery all the way back, pushed against the XT30, and this 10 Bones pushed as far back like this, we actually have proper center of gravity now. If I were to take off these 4 screws, the O3 Air Unit slides right out. You can access the harness very easy to the flight controller. You can access your SD card, which I'm going to pop out because I need to take some footage off of that from earlier. Your bind button, or your USB-C, everything is really accessible with just 4 screws. That's nice. I think that's nice. But it is very difficult to access your USB, your micro USB connection for Betaflight. It's in there, but you kind of have to go in through the top. It's not nearly as easy as the BETAFPV Pavo25 V2 or some of the other ones in the past. A right angle USB adapter won't even cut it. It's just not even possible. Same with the SD card of the O3 Air Unit. If you want to get your footage off of this, you have to take out these 4 screws, pop it out, and then eject the SD card. Not easy. I wish it was easier accessible. You think, okay, I could offload using the USB-C. Well, not really, because you're running into the same issue of trying to get your fingers in there to plug in the USB-C cable to the Air Unit. It's not easy. I think that might be my biggest gripe about this design. However, once you've taken off that O3 panel, like say you're installing everything, you can also take off those ducts pretty easy. They pop right off. They're pretty much friction fit under the carbon plate of the O3 Air Unit that gets screwed down. So that is nice. It's easy to work on. Only 4 screws to solder things up and to do everything. But almost everything you need to do, from accessing your SD card to easily plugging in your micro USB and USB-C cables, all that relies on taking out those 4 screws. Even the bind button of the O3 Air Unit isn't accessible. It's right here. So if you don't know off the bat where to look, I mean, before I looked at a picture on the internet, I was searching around for that bind button. I was like, I am not going to unscrew this for a bind button. Well, sure enough, I had to. Also, make sure when you are reading this manual that it says the S-Bus port corresponds to the UART3 port. To ensure proper functioning, it is necessary to disconnect the S-Bus wiring of the data transmission terminal. So you have to take out those 2 wires out of the connection harness from the O3 Air Unit to the flight controller, especially if you have ELRS. So ELRS and O3 Air Unit do not like to work with each other when that S-bus connection is in the data harness of the O3 Air Unit. Take those 2 wires out, leave the other 4 in, and then plug it into your flight controller and your O3 Air Unit. Then your ELRS and your O3 Air Unit will work together. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you to BETAFPV for sending me the Pavo25 V2. I'm going to fly it around some more, and this is probably going to be one of my go-to quads if I'm ever asked to do a fly-through of a facility or something. I think this is really going to fit the bill, and I might even decase a Hero 11 or something and make it even smaller and tighter. Who knows? Sky's the limit for drones, isn't it? All right, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Until next time, happy flying.